Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Periyungan, a practical guide to MDS Preodontology examination. So today we will be talking about scaling and root planing. So going on to the definition of scaling and root planing, Carranza defined scaling as the process by which plaque and calculus are removed from both the supragingival and subgingival tooth surface. Linde defines scaling as an instrumentation for removal of mineralized deposits. Cohen defines scaling as the removal of plaque, calculus and stains to the crown root surface. Root planing is defined as the process by which residual embedded calculus and portions of cementum are removed from the roots to produce a smooth, hard, clean surface. Linde defined root planing as an instrumentation to remove contaminated cementum and dentine in order to restore the biologic compatibility of the periodontally diseased root surface. Root planing is defined as removal of cementum or dentine from the root surface in an attempt to attain a smooth, rough surface and dislodge the calculus according to Cohen. So what is the rationale for root planing? One is root smoothness and removal of the diseased cementum. Schroeder in 1983 reported that the foci of reinfection was resorption lacunae. Verhoeg in 1952 reported that the rough surface of the calculus would provide an ideal surface for microbial colonization. Allo J in 1974 reported that the root planing is essential to remove the endotoxin and that invades the dentine. So next is removal of diseased cementum was supported by Hatfield and Bomer in 1971, who described the cytotoxic effect of the diseased root surface. Allo J in 1974 reported that human gingival fibroblasts did not adhere to the root surface contaminated with the lipopolysaccharide. Nyman et al. In 1986 reported that the biocompatible root surface is characterized by absence of endotoxins. Hughes et al. In 1988 demonstrated the presence of lipopolysaccharide on the cementum surface. What are the indications and contraindications of scaling and root planing? The indications are edematous and inflamed tissue, shallow pockets, suprabony pockets, as a part of initial therapy prior to open flap debridement, and when there is a progressive attachment loss. The contraindications are fibrotic tissue, deep pockets, and furcation involvement. What are the instruments used for scaling and root planing? Hand instruments, sonic and ultrasonic instruments, ablative lasers, and photodynamic therapy. What are the hand instruments? Hand instruments are considered as the gold standard of mechanical periodontal therapy according to Heaths and Mayfield in 2013. The use of hand instruments allows good tactile sensation but tends to be more time consuming than other methods and requires correct and frequent instrument sharpening. Hand instruments are classified into scalers, that is hose scalers. Hose scalers are used for removal of subgingival calculus. They can be used for root planing and to remove the calculus from the base of the pocket. The sickle scaler is used for removal of supragingival calculus. Chisel scaler is designed for proximal surface as usually in the anterior part of the mouth, therefore the adaptation is limited. Curette is used for removal of subgingival calculus and root planing and removing the altered necrotic tissues from the pocket. File scalers are used to fracture or crush the calculus. Sonic and ultrasonic instruments. Sonic devices uses air pressure to create mechanical vibration that causes the instrument tip to vibrate. The frequencies of vibration ranging from 2000 to 6000 Hz. Ultrasonic scalers convert electrical energy into mechanical energy in the form of high frequency vibrations. In magnostrictive scaler, the electric current produces a magnetic field in the handpiece that causes the insert to expand and contract along its length and in turn cause the insert to vibrate. The pattern of vibration is elliptical. In piezoelectric scalers, the alternating current causes a dimensional change in the handpiece that is transmitted to the working tip as vibration. The pattern of vibration is linear. Lasers. In 1974, Zarikol et al. Introduced the use of erbium-YAG lasers for scaling and root planing. Erbium-YAG laser radiation was performed under the water spray at an energy output of 40 millijoules per pulse. At the energy output of 40 millijoules per pulse, the actual energy setting on a panel was greater than 60 millijoules per pulse due to the approximate 35% of energy loss in the contact probe. The energy output of 40 millijoules per pulse was equivalent to the energy density of 14.2 joules per centimeter square per pulse at the tip of the contact probe. Gallium aluminum arsenide and diode laser of 940 nanometer wavelength with a power setting of 2 watts with an average power of 0.66 watts in a pulse interval of 20 milliseconds and pulse length of 20 milliseconds, delivering 30 seconds per square centimeters and 15 joules per square centimeter of the energy. These are the systematic reviews for non-surgical periodontal therapy. The same thing is being continued here. What is healing following scaling and root planing? Once scaling and root planing is performed, numerous polymorphonucleocosides can be seen, residual epithelial cells and clavicular surface in about 2 hours. There is a dilatation of blood vessels, edema and necrosis in the lateral wall of the pocket. 24 hours after scaling, a widespread infiltration of inflammatory cells and migration of keratinocytes have been observed in all areas of remaining epithelium, and in 2 days the entire pocket is epithelialized. In 4 to 5 days, a new epithelial attachment may appear at the bottom of the sulcus. Depending on the severity of the inflammation, depth of the gingival crevice, complete epithelial healing occurs in 1 to 3 weeks. Connective tissue repair takes place, followed by long junctional epithelium formation. So, what are the limitations of scaling and root planing? If the anatomy of the root is not very feasible for performing this procedure, like root concavities, abnormal root surfaces and furcation involvement, the scaling and root planing cannot be performed. Skill and time based it is. So Breyer et al. In 1989 found that more experienced operators had more calculus free root surface than moderate to deep pockets. More experienced operators were more proficient in removing the calculus from furcations. Residual calculus. Verhoek in 1978 examined to what extent it was possible to remove the subgingival plaque and calculus by means of manual scalers. In pockets between 3 to 5 mm, the rate of success was 39%, and in deeper pockets more than 5 mm, they showed 11% rate of success. So Stamberg et al. In 1981 also reported that inability to remove all the subgingival plaque and calculus from all the tooth surface with more than 3.73 millimeters. So these are my references, and thank you for viewing my channel. All the best for your examination.